So this is week 3 of a series called Meditation Essentials, and we're aiming to sort of take you through the basics of the 2 practices that we teach here at Cambridge Buddhist Centre, Metta Bhavana and the mindfulness of breathing. And it'll be the mindfulness of breathing this evening. And we're also halfway through. Is this the halfway stage? I don't quite know how this course works, actually. Maybe a bit beyond the halfway stage of a course, a 6-week meditation challenge. We threw down the gauntlet and invited anybody who wanted to join us to meditate 5 days out of 7 for 6 weeks. And we're laying on all the support that we can. So we're sort of encouraging people on the meditation challenge to come to this meditation night, which is our regular practice night at Cambridge Buddhist Centre. We're always here every Thursday night meditating. And when the building is open, we're here in the flesh. So when that glorious day comes, do come to Cambridge Buddhist Centre and meditate with us on a Thursday evening. So just in a few moments, I will start. Any more greetings?
Yes, from Brenda, Nirokum and Selena.
Hello, Brenda, and hello, Selena. Welcome. Just going to take a little sip of tea.
24 of us here tonight.
Lovely. That's great. There's plenty of room in YouTube as well, isn't there? So, yeah, it's 7:05, so I think I'm going to start. So yeah, a few moments ago, I was talking about this thing that we're running at Cambridge Buddhist Centre called the 6-week challenge, which many of you actually are on. What I really love about this 6-week challenge is that it's quite a collective project. We've created a meditation community, and that's also really the idea behind Meditation Night, is to provide a sort of an access point for a meditation community to come together, because meditation is a collective project, actually, ideally. So if you're not on this 6-week challenge, we will be probably running another one after Easter, so keep an eye on the website. And yeah, for meditation, you need to find your context. You need to find your situation in which you can set up your practice in relation, in a way, to other people. So it's great to come to Meditation Night or to join a course like the 6-week challenge. Yeah. And just a couple of words about my context at the moment, which is that I was unexpectedly called away from home just before Christmas. And I found myself stranded in, of all places, Gerrard's Cross for the last 6 weeks nearly. And yeah, a strange house I'd never been in before. Pretty much the first thing I did when I arrived, the first morning after I arrived, was find myself a place to meditate, to set up a meditation spot for myself. And in some ways, I was kind of spurred on by the realization that I would be leading this course and teaching and these evenings. I needed to really look after my meditation practice. And what I discovered, of course, which I always knew, was that my regular meditation practice provides me with stability, positive mental states wherever I am and whatever I'm doing. And I just have been feeling profoundly grateful for this skill that I've learned over the years. So, and over the past 5 weeks, I've also been involved in this course, the Meditation Challenge, and there's been a growing feeling of excitement in me about it, because it feels to me as though we have created a really living, breathing, interacting community. And we're sort of in this together, in this context of the lockdown. And there's so much potential in that, isn't there? And we've started from scratch during this series. We've looked at the mindfulness of breathing and the metta bhavana, and now we're back with the mindfulness of breathing. And just the other day, someone on the course asked me, how do I work with thoughts that won't go away? So you might have got your meditation practice kind of up and running, but really struggling to work with distraction. So I think that person was speaking for lots of people. And she was speaking at the point in our collective journey when we're really ready to tackle that question, how to work with distracting thoughts, those sticky thoughts that simply won't leave us alone and let us get on with our meditation. So I'm going to look at that this evening, and along the way, we're going to learn how to let go of self-clinging. We're going to learn something of how to really embark on the road of becoming more of an individual, defined by your core values, rather than someone who is shaped by externally applied imperatives and concerns. Things like, you know, the need for a house or a career or a car or whatever. So we're going to be exploring how to really get in touch with who you really are, as Arta Siddhi was mentioning in the first talk in this series. And in that way, we are going to have a very real chance of becoming happier and living a life that is closer to the kind of life we really want to live. So the title of my talk is Self as Story. Self as Story. Buddhism, or as I prefer to say, the Dharma, tells us that our sense of self is built out of the stories we tell about ourselves to make sense of our experience. So, in a very sort of fundamental sense, we are storytelling creatures. Human beings love stories and are drawn to them in the same way that dogs love smells and are drawn to them. Human beings like to sniff out a story and polish up a story. So we love stories and we're drawn to them, and stories aren't a bad thing at all. They're, you know, the spice of life in many ways. However, stories aren't true. And in a similar way, the self isn't a bad thing in itself, whatever it might be. It's not bad, but it's not real or fixed. And we very often fall into the trap of thinking that it is real and fixed, and that in a way we're stuck with it. So it's really important to be alive to this truth, to this truth, actually. Whatever story you might be experiencing It's not the end of the story. It's not real. It's not true. It may be compelling. It may be beautiful. It may have something to give you that is important, but it's not the be all and end all. So we need to, as I say, we need to become alive to that. Not just, I mean, I'm sure you're not going to argue with me about that. But we need to become alive to that, not just conceptually or philosophically or rationally. We need to come alive to that experientially. And that is a very different thing. And this is what meditation potentially offers you, the opportunity to become alive to that truth. Often we don't even realize that we are telling stories about ourselves and about other people and about our situation and living by those stories. We don't even realize we're doing that. But meditation can wake you up to that fact, and it can help to sort of set you free. I don't feel qualified in a way to say that meditation can take you beyond yourself to somewhere extraordinarily beautiful, transcendental. But I do think I've had the merest flavor of that, and I know people who really have gone there, and I'm keen to follow them. Somebody I know who really speaks beautifully about that is a teacher called Jnana Vacha, who's actually the president of Cambridge Buddhist Centre, and who is actually going to come and lead a retreat with us at Easter. So watch out for that. Come along if you can. But in the meantime, let me tell you a story. This morning, I woke up and I came downstairs to meditate. And actually, what I tend to do first thing in the morning, before I meditate, whilst I'm actually setting this is madness. Now I'm telling you about it, I realize it's total madness. But anyway, this is what I've been doing recently. Whilst I'm setting myself up, is I pick up my phone and I do my little contribution to the COVID Zoe app. I hope you know what that is, but it's a little thing that where you check in and say whether or not you've got COVID. And if I don't do it, then I'll probably forget. So that's why I think I'll do it first thing in the morning. But of course, you know, a telephone is a highly dangerous object when you're meditating. Usually, so far, I've completely got away with it. But this morning, an email had come in. An email had come in from work, and it was up as a banner on my phone. And they don't generally come in till after 10. So, but this one, I think it must have been written about 4 o'clock in the morning. And it was from a colleague, and I read it. I'm sorry to say, I'm almost ashamed to say that it triggered quite a response from me. Irritation, impatience, and a mild but pernicious sense of injustice. And those feelings took hold of me. And that was it. My meditation was on the rocks and in deep trouble. So I was in physical pain. There were tensions and energies coursing through my body. And my mind was spinning in all sorts of directions. I'm planning a response to the email that's going to really nail it. I've got to craft it so that it'll really hit the mark. And I'm reflecting on how misunderstood I am. I'm still quite new in Cambridge, and I think I don't really understand how things are done here. And this email was putting me right on that. So I start telling my stories about how much better it was where I was before, and my mind is proliferating. Another thing, she said this and he did that. Other issues at work come to mind, and I start to plan and scheme. I'm going to become powerful so that this doesn't, so I don't have to put up with this any longer. And then if that doesn't work, I'm going to just leave. I'm going to go and live on a Scottish island and grow vegetables. So in Buddhism, there's a technical term for this phenomenon, which I'm guessing you recognize, and it's called prapancha, or proliferating stories. One story just seems to spin out of another, and it happens to all of us. But what we perhaps don't realize, as I was saying earlier, is that we fall for these stories. So, I know that it doesn't make sense for me to run away to the Isle of Skye and grow vegetables. I realize that that is an unrealistic fantasy, although it was quite a compelling one. But there are other stories in that whole mix that I'm telling myself about myself and my colleague and my colleagues that are imperceptibly becoming facts for me. I might decide, for example, that Cambridge is just a bit cozy and insular, and that might impact on the way that I relate to that context. It becomes actually a self-fulfilling prophecy, because a bit like the story about the farmer that Dhammanatha was telling the other day. So yeah, we see what we look for, we see what we're alive to, we see what our stories tell us to see. And I'm forgetting that actually all stories are untrue. At best, they are partially true only. And even then, I think that's probably not the case. And we have a tendency as human beings to go for the negative story, the negative story. It's human nature. So how can we work with this in meditation? Well, traditionally speaking, in fact, the mindfulness of breathing is indicated for the practitioner who gets easily distracted. The mindfulness of breathing kind of provides you with a little toolkit for working with this kind of distraction. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that before I lead us through. But I think it's also important to remember the principles of the Metta Bhavana, and for that reason, I do recommend that you alternate these two practices as far as possible. So I'll mention the first two stages of the mindfulness of breathing. Hopefully I'll get to the others as well. So in the first stage, we're calming and soothing our experience. We can think of the out-breath as an inspiration to let go and to release. Whilst in the second stage, we're energizing and inspiring. So we're sort of connecting with the energy, we're becoming acquainted with the way the body is in the moment. So particularly, I suggest in the second stage, look out for pleasure in your experience, the warmth of your hands, the gentle pulsing and buzzing of the body. That is the basis for what can grow into quite extensive pleasure in meditation. And you can develop the qualities brought about by the two stages of releasing and relaxing, energizing and inspiring. And with careful practice, you'll enter into a state of energized calm in which you're more aware of your feelings and the stories that are arising in your experience on the basis of those feelings. So it's a kind of concentration that we're moving into with the first two stages. It creates a sort of a spaciousness, a slowing down that allows you to bring, as you bring your attention to the breath and your posture becomes still, things start to slow down and you become more aware. And you can start to notice the feelings that arise, which are the basis of the stories you're telling yourself. The stories, start as, I don't like this, I don't like her, I want this, I want him. The attraction or the repulsion comes first, and then the story comes to justify the action. So for me, the idea of a cake might come into my mind, and then that'll grow. And before I know it, I've gone to the fridge and I've started to eat it. So we speak in Buddhism of the mind as a sense organ. Just as the nose detects smells, so the mind detects ideas and feelings. And in a way, I was being dominated, limited, cowed by my stories this morning. But equally, you could be intoxicated by your thoughts. Sexual fantasy being a case in point, but also food, the desire to go on holiday, intoxicating thoughts that become quite compelling. So what we're aiming to do in meditation is to take the heat out of these stories and notice the effect that they're having upon us. So, for example, this morning, 1 minute I'd been peacefully and happily preparing to meditate, and the next I was plunged into a maelstrom of irritation and upset. And probably precisely because I was just preparing to go into that gentle space of meditation, that irritation and upset was all the more vivid and painful. And then adding to that, I started to be annoyed with myself because I'd ruined my meditation by looking at the email. And it was impossible to put those thoughts down. They came from some very strongly held convictions and feelings, and it was difficult to let those go. But I did sit. I entered into the first stage of the mindfulness of breathing, calming and soothing with the breath, remembering that it's my intention to let go of these stories. It's very hard work. I couldn't really manage to put things down. And as I breathed in, that was like wind on hot coals, kind of feeding stories. But I just had to patiently keep doing it. If I spend even quite a lot of time in meditation doing this, it's not a waste of time, because I can take the opportunity to notice the flavor of these stories and what they're doing to me. So this morning I was a victim. In other stories, I might be a hero. And how does that feel? And at that point, I can bring in metta bhavana. I can say to myself, may I be well, may I be happy. And these feelings of irritation, upset, injustice do not help me to become happy. They help me to stay in suffering. And I notice that, and I go back to the practice of the metta bhavana, mindfulness of breathing, which inspires me to let go and energize, connect with the experience of the moment. So in many ways, the meditation I had this morning was not, very good. It was a bad meditation. By the time I'd got myself back to clarity and sanity, it was pretty much time to get on with the rest of the working day. But I went to work sane. And I learned some things. I learned about the importance of reducing input. So I'm not going to do that with the Zoe app again. I learned that I just need to guard the time and space I make for meditation. And I need to plan in my diary for retreats, for the opportunity to take myself away from daily life and really explore what is possible in meditation. And also the importance of this imperative to be here for you with the team, which actually keeps me on the straight and narrow. So it's a little late. Sorry, got a bit carried away with my talk. But I will lead us in a short period of the mindfulness of breathing. And with a bit of luck, there will be time for a Q&A at the end. So do set yourself up. Give you a moment to find your seat. And I'll lead us through a 20-minute period of the mindfulness of breathing. Maybe a bit less than 20 minutes. So I invite you to close your eyes. Take a deeper breath or two. And remember that these early preparatory stages of the meditation are really important. Give yourself time to settle and arrive in your posture. Feel the weight of your body on the ground. The lower half of the body can be heavy and grounded. Noticing the weight of your bones in your feet, your ankles, your knees, thighs and pelvis. And then the flexibility of your spine, dropping the shoulders, lengthening the back of the neck, allowing the crown of the head to travel towards the ceiling, face tilted towards the ground, softening, relaxing, connecting with the breath. Mindfulness of breathing. So in the first stage, noticing the end of the out-breath, and allowing the out-breath to aid you in releasing, relaxing, letting go. It's as if any thoughts or distractions, you can sort of just put them onto the out-breath and let them flow out of the body into the ground. Softening, calming, soothing. If there are thoughts and stories, perhaps beginning to get a sense of how they are inhabiting your body. Are they part of creating tension, heat in your experience? So is it helpful to soften? Imagine them being dismantled and carried away by the out-breath. All stories are untrue and impartial. And then if you're ready, taking your attention to the beginning of the out-breath, it's not so much that we move from one stage to the next, but we build the second stage on the basis of the first stage. So continuing to release and let go, but also noticing the beginning of the in-breath. How it inhabits the body, filling up the lungs, the chest cavity, giving you buoyancy, lift. staying grounded, heavy, but noticing the buoyancy and lift of the in-breath. And if story, thoughts, ideas, arguments are taking possession of the moment, you can choose to become interested in how that is affecting your physical experience. Colouring, what's the colour and the flavour of the story as it inhabits you? If there's tension in the body, the breath can help you to soften, loosen. There's heat or energy, the breath can help to cool it. Letting the story do its thing, but being interested in the feelings upon which it's based. And remembering that the practice gives you the grounding of the out-breath and the inspiration of the in-breath, sort of navigational tools. And in the third stage, it's as if you've waded into the sea, started to swim, and now you take your feet off the ground altogether, lie on your back, allowing the breath to support you, letting go of counting, broadening your awareness. Allowing the breath to inhabit your body like a wave. And if you find yourself being caught up again in thinking, planning, plotting, arguing, bargaining. Just seeing if you can let the stories float out of your body with the out breath. Cultivate a curious interest in your physical experience. Informed by the breath. Softening tension. In the fourth stage, focusing your attention on the part of the body where the breath first comes in. Cool spot around the nose or the lip. It's as if everything else can just fall away. You train your attention on that spot. Letting go into a focused attention. You can always resort to first stage, second stage, third stage, just to bring yourself back. Whatever enables you to remain vividly aware of your breath and body. You might find that you get carried away by stories, even at this stage, and all is not lost. You can start right from the beginning and build yourself back. It's never too late. And now for the last minute of the meditation, letting go of all effort, all ambition, all intention, seeing if you can just sit. Notice any changes that might have occurred in your experience. Letting thoughts come and go as they will. And as I ring the bell to mark the end of the meditation, opening your eyes and coming out of the meditation posture. So we've got a few minutes left. Maybe you have some question to ask or a reflection to make about this practice, meditation. In which case, I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear about that, and I'll try to answer. It's always a slightly difficult transition to make from meditation to typing in the chat box. So I'm happy to just hang with it for a few minutes, a couple of moments.
We have a question about stories. Vidyasakhi.
Mm-hmm.
This is Sam. Is our journey to enlightenment just a story we tell ourselves?
Is our journey to enlightenment just a story we tell ourselves? Well, in a way, it is. I'm not saying that stories aren't useful. In a way, stories are very, very fundamental in a way to the Buddhist tradition. And there are lots of stories about the Buddha's enlightenment. So, yeah, it's not quite helpful to say it's just a story, is it? Because stories are important. And it's also, yeah, enlightenment is so mysterious and profound. You can't really say whether you believe in it or not. It's just reality with a capital R, which is a very trite thing to say, and I wish I hadn't said it. Yeah, but in a way it is. So we need stories, and we also need to let go of them. And that's true of the story of enlightenment as well. Hope that helps.
Yeah, and a somewhat related question from Jeanette. If everything is a story and not real, then how do we know that the part of us that can see the stories and is putting our focus on the breathing isn't part of another story? And is that real?
Well, it's a very, 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 very interesting question, Jeanette. Yeah, all I can say is I think that's a very interesting question. In a way, we know what's true in our experience, don't we? Well, I think this is what we get to in meditation, is that we start to become a bit more sure-footed about what is true in our experience and what isn't. It's a very mysterious thing. I mean, in a way, the question you're asking is precisely what mindfulness of breathing is all about. I am just a baby when it comes to teaching you the mindfulness of breathing. I'm just pointing you in a direction. There are some really great teachers in our tradition and in our movement. And actually, I just encourage you to keep exploring and swapping notes. And yeah, it's a good question, though. I hope that helps. Any other questions? Just quickly before we go to the final bit.
There's no other questions. Craig has commented, the boat to cross the river. Again, the connection with the journey to enlightenment as a story.
Oh, yes. 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 Well, that opens up a whole other area, which we don't really have time to go into just now. So I'm going to finish up by just mentioning that we are very, very happy to offer these classes, and all the courses that we lead in meditation are free. And we want people to be freely able to enjoy them and make use of them and benefit from them. And we are a charity, and we are only really able to run because of donations that we receive. So if you are at all sort of well disposed towards our project, please think about making a donation, small or large. We'd be really grateful to receive that this evening. And if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, just press that subscribe button. That also is surprisingly helpful for us. And do just keep coming along. Look at our website. We've got courses coming up. Samudra Ghosh is going to be leading Who Hates the Metta Bhavana course from, now I've forgotten the date. Can you tell me?
Starts Saturday the 20th.
Yeah. So that starts on Saturday the 20th. And then this meditation night series will be connected to the Metta Bhavana. So we'll be exploring the Metta Bhavana. And we've got, as I mentioned, we've got an Easter retreat coming up with a marvelous teacher called Jnanavacha. So think about whether you can create space in your diary for a retreat with us at Easter. Be fabulous if you can. So we're rapidly running out of time. So I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you for coming. Do say goodbye and see you next week. Maybe see you on Saturday if you're on the course. That's it.